Dun, 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 dun. Here we are. Like and subscribe. I've noticed a couple of you we've had added subscribers, so that's wonderful.
Woohoo!
Let's keep the ball rolling. YouTube, Spotify, Rumble,
TikTok, Instagram.
We're on all the stuff, dogs. Come on, dogs. Subscribe.
Yeah, especially on TikTok. Our views have been drop.
And
like
on YouTube,
hot.
they've been
Up.
They've been
Which is good.
skyrocketing.
Which is good. And I feel like we're posting different content now with the new programs that we're doing. So that's also testing, like, who cares, who doesn't care.
Yeah.
But I got a good suggestion of posting more of like the full length of the workout, not...
Oh, who suggested that?
You did and Carly
Oh.
did. But you did and Carly did.
Well,
So it wasn't just you.
who cares about Carly? I think it's more about me.
That like posting the full workout, like every exercise that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But still,
Social media, you gotta adapt.
yeah.
You gotta be flexible.
Yeah.
You gotta be water.
Yeah, which I would like to know, because what I like the fitness of social media, I'm guessing is maybe different than some other people's, because like I don't care about instructional videos, because I'm kind of like, yeah, I know how to do that. Like I don't need to watch you do it.
Sure.
But if I
And they
just
can
see
be
someone
boring.
that's like really in shape doing something cool, I'm like, oh, I can admire how they look and that looks cool, and they're doing hip thrusts and whatever. Like it's just like a girl that looks crazy awesome. I'll watch that.
Well, I think
But if
that's,
she was doing like an instructional video, I wouldn't watch that. But what is the average person? What do they like? Like what do they want me to post in regards to this program? That's what I would like to know. Besides the full length
I could
of the
tell you.
workout, what do they want to see?
I could tell you. They want to see you half naked doing...
Check. Already do that.
No, even more. They want to see just butt shots. Social media is a gross place now. It's the dark arts. I think that's what's interesting about social media, though. It shows that people are more like monkey see, monkey do, rather than just give me the informational part of it. It's like you could go get all the information you want in books and blogs and all that kind of stuff, but our primary thing now is we want to see video. Like, you remember when Instagram came out? It was like, holy crap, pictures? Like,
right.
People are just posting pictures, and it's like, it's cool. We can just scroll through and see like tons of pictures.
Well, and that's what I kind of...
landscape now.
That's what I'm curious about is, do people just want to see me do the exercises, or do they want like instruction? Like, do they just want to see me do it and like figure it out and get inspired by that?
Here's a tip. Nobody wants to hear a woman talk.
Not that I would necessarily be talking over the video, but like,
That's a joke.
Do you want me to? I mean, I don't disagree with that. Like the video that you showed me of that girl explaining, I'm like, great information, but holy crap, your voice is terrible.
It's all about the delivery. Yeah, it's all about the delivery.
Yeah.
It's like, the same thing with guys. Like, there's annoying guys that'll post their instructional things. It's like, you're either boring or you're like got a weird arrogance, and I'm sure people watch our stuff and they're like, God, they're annoying.
You're all of those things.
Yeah.
You're boring and you're not.
Yeah. It's.
You're hyping the wrong areas and not.
It is what it is, you know? But I think that's where people have their, I don't know, they have their own social media and their own thing, and how people like when it's super. Look at Andrew Huberman. He's not exciting, but people love just the informational content. And then I think it's just like, do what you're good at. That's what's the most authentic and most original. Do what you're good at. That's why we do a podcast. We're so much better at just sitting, having a conversation, talking, rather than like vlogging. Like, hey guys, I went and got my Starbucks today. It's like,
Granted,
that's not.
Are we good
attitude.
at this? No, not yet.
But better than what that would be.
Better than, our personalities don't match with that.
This is more natural to us.
Sure. But I actually think Huberman, people like to listen to him or can handle retaining so much information from him, going back to what I'm trying to work on with my communication, the skills. Like, he is good at fluctuating his vocals He is good at engaging you with pauses and when he introduces what information and how to mix in stories with the knowledge. Like, it seems like what he's doing is he's just talking, but whether he's conscious of it or not, maybe because he lectures kids for a living, like maybe he's figured out the skill of how to deliver information. But I'm finding that very interesting with listening to other podcasts now, or just when I'm getting other information from videos, is who is sneaky good at communicating. Because it seems like, oh yeah, that's just how everyone talks. And then you hear someone else talk, or you listen to us talk, and it's like, oh, we do not have this figured out yet.
No, I think that's where you almost can't tell. You can tell instinctually, this, for some reason, I'm just not into this. And it's probably because of all those communication skills. They're just not entertaining, or they're not grabbing you, or whatever the reasons are. They don't change like me, I'm very monotone, same speed, talking all the time. To where good communicators are like, they're talking low and making their point here, and then they're getting animated and they're really high, and then they're doing all this different stuff.
Notice how you didn't even get higher. You
no.
did like a little bit higher pitch.
I just went faster. I just went slow and fast. But yeah, I think we instinctually know, like, this is boring, but we maybe don't know the things of why. To where after watching, a podcast or two about communication and stuff like that, there's actual techniques and things that you can do to be more engaging and all that kind of stuff.
Pitch. What I'm working on is pitch, pause, volume, speed.
That's a lot.
Trying to well, and honestly, listening back to our own episodes, like he brought up a good point of like filming everything that you, as much as you can, to see yourself in real time. Like, how do you work? Like, look at yourself, like when you send me the shorts and I'm looking at myself, like, do I look engaging to watch? That's one. So like, how approachable do I look visually? Then strip away the visual. If I just hear myself, what patterns do I hear? And like going back and forth and trying to get better at those. I bet I am. And then I want to start doing it every once in a while with teaching, because I know I do it really good teaching. Oh yeah.
I'm so much better at teaching than I am with this.
I'm like, what is up with that?
I wonder if it's because you have an audience of some sort. So it's like, it's just me and you in here?
Sure.
Well, secret's out. There's not a whole bunch of producers around.
Especially when I teach the littles, because I'm like putting on a show with my voice. Or like I'm trying to be very tactical. That's what it is. I'm trying to be tactical with my voice and use it as a part of my teaching. So I need to get that into my brain with when I'm just talking regularly. Like, and I can't, do you know what his name is?
No.
It was an awesome podcast, but
it's a beautiful Asian man.
He the way he got into this communication world was he had his piano coach talking to him about, when you hear this song, what does it make you feel? When you hear this song, what does it make you feel? That we can use our voice as another instrument of ours and another tool of ours to express and bring out emotion in other people, which to me, that is also translating into how I can teach people and how I can deliver information.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think even just for a general person that doesn't teach or just goes to their job, just has kids, whatever, it's like the way that you're communicating it's kind of a form of manipulation, but using that as a positive, you can affect the instructions you're giving or how you're perceived at work. Like, that's a huge part of why we like people, why we don't like people, is just the way that they communicate. If they're always negative or shitty, or I don't know, just any of the negative things that you can think of, you think of somebody that you're like, I don't like the way that I perceive them. It's like, well, it's probably because their communication skills are not that great. Yeah.
And it's a tool that we all have to use. This is like a fitness thing to me. I like things like this where I have to do it anyways, so might as well get better at it.
Yeah.
Like, we have to talk to people. Would I rather be engaging and figure out my system, or
Yeah,
it's kind
well,
of like
and
there's
it's,
a better way to do this. Why not do it that way?
and it's just a way to be more likable and have a better community and increase the value of your life and the I don't know, like just the quality of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, is your life getting better because you are communicating better with the people around you and they're more engaged in you, so then they're giving more feedback and they're giving more positive reactions to you and stuff like that. It's like you can create that just by the way that you talk and communicate and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times with the intention of your word it's like we're like, well, but I didn't mean to do that, and I think that even is like a sign of you're not using your tool to the best of your ability because you're not able to translate your meaning into your words and how you deliver it.
Totally.
Like how unaware we can be sometimes of, yeah, but you're like, it's always like your tone.
Sure.
I feel like that's always people's like, yeah, but you were aggressive when you said it. And you're like, what? I know I wasn't. You're like, you're screaming at me and you don't even realize, or like you're being very snippy and harsh.
And your face and your eyes
Yes.
are showing an aggression.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like having the control of all of that. I think you have to have the understanding first of what's your baseline. Like you talk very quiet, I talk very loud.
Yeah.
To where if we're always doing that and that's our default, it's no longer effective.
Yeah, right. And that's probably why we're better at teaching than maybe just with this, is because we're reacting to the situations around us. So we know, like, okay, they're not listening. I have to get more stern. And then hopefully they notice that I'm more stern. And if they don't notice that, okay, now here comes a consequence. Burpees. Yay, we're just going to do burpees now. And then they start to pick up like, oh, when he gets this way, it means that that burpee thing is coming soon. So we got to change our attitude. And it's like, that's our job. It's like, take responsibility for that. It's not like the kid needs to know or has to innately know that I'm getting upset. It's like, no, they need to know when my tone of voice changes to this, I'm getting upset. So consequence is coming, to where then they can see that, react in the opposite way of like, okay, let's figure our stuff out. And then they also notice when I'm more chipper or I'm joking around with them, like, okay, things are lighter, and then they can kind of react with that same thing and we can have fun. But then if it starts to get into a weird spot again where we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, then you get stern again. It's like this ebb and flow of the way you're communicating, to where I think that's where I was bad at it in the beginning, was like I was just soldier. It's like there was nothing other than this tone all the time, to where that's not a fun environment to be in. That's not a fun person to be around, even if it's not teaching. If you're just, with family or at a gathering, whatever, it's like having the variety in your tone and your communication and how you act. I think it makes people feel more comfortable because they understand how you're feeling and where you're at, rather than being Mr. Mysterious Boy that just doesn't say anything and doesn't change his tone. It's just always the same thing over and over again. It's like, I can't tell if you're happy or you're pissed or whatever.
Right.
So now I don't know how to react to that. And then I'm walking on eggshells and feeling uncomfortable with the situation, to where if we all just communicated better, we would understand the situations way better all the time. But social media is also not helping that, because everybody's so much more isolated. We're not talking to each other in person as much. Everything's through text or, Snapchat or whatever. But that's something that the skill of that is kind of going away or losing.
Well, and we noticed that with teaching, that kids are not great anymore at understanding body language. Like, they can't physically tell when I'm getting upset. And you have said, like, I don't show that great, so I'm trying to be a little bit more expressive with that. But in order to counteract that or counterbalance that, I can use my voice to be able to demonstrate, like, I'm getting more stern, or the playfulness in my voice has gone away. So buckle up.
Well, and I also think keeping some sort of consistency with that too. It's like, my sternness is the same every time. To where if your sternness is like, okay, I'm going to talk quieter and slower to show you that I'm not really loving this right now. And you do that every single time, they then can pick up, okay, she's talking slow and quiet.
That's scary.
She's not vibing with this right now. To where when you're always upbeat and loud and that sort of thing, I think that's what's so funny with teaching kids too, is I've noticed, I thought I could just like raise my voice and get louder and that would fix the problems, but it doesn't, because they also just get used to him raising his voice, and now what? To where if I'm always at that tone, or that's the only method I do, it's almost not clear enough, because I'm just raising my voice to tell you what exercises we're doing next because you guys are loud. That's not really telling them, hey, they need to be quieter. It's actually the opposite probably of what you should do.
They ramp.
Yeah, to where you should get quieter and get softer if that's the direction you want the class to go, rather than I'm getting upset and people are loud and annoying, I'm going to get even more ramped up. It's like, no, your energy has to bring it down to bring everybody else down. It's like, it's a mimicking thing.
Yeah, I have that in my teacher training. It's like I have it as like match my energy. The kids will reflect whatever you're doing, so that has to be like from head to toe. Like your body language, if you want the class to be calm, your body language has to be calm. Your speech has to be calm. Your delivery mechanisms of what you're doing has to be calm. The hype, loud, crazy energy that you can sometimes bring when you're teaching a large group, I think that has to come in certain pops. But the room has to be controlled first in order to gain responsible hypeness.
Yeah, I mean, to harness that and to have it be a productive.
And that depends on the age, I think, that you're working with, because older kids, they can sometimes, like, the hype doesn't inspire them as much, to where they're just like, okay, you're being dorky about it. To where the younger that they are, they're like, oh, we're going? And then they were like, I'm going to overpower you. So it's like, you have to find that happy medium. And I just watched a video of, the nanny.
Yeah.
She just posted, like, all these parents are saying that they're having trouble with their kids going to bed and getting, downtime, and they're taking hours to fall asleep, and they keep coming in back and forth, back and forth. And she's like, you need to start that way earlier in the night, and you need your whole like vibe to be, we're calming down, we're chilling out. Like, you need to start talking to them quieter. Every action that you do needs to be slow and methodical, not like quickly brush your teeth, or quickly get your pajamas on, or quickly we're gonna do this. Like, everything needs to drop it down a notch. Lights go down, your speech goes down, you're starting to whisper to them as the night increases. Like, everything starts to scale, because their body will respond to that.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the same thing with the communication thing. Like, you have to be in alignment with what is the whole tone and theme that I'm trying to display with my verbiage and presentation.
Yeah. And I think even just like doing that with friends or family too. Like, you could even just run experiments. Like, I'm going to come in and be like all razzle dazzle and watch what other people do. Because I think there's going to be some people that, as you get older too, you just get more in your own thing and you're maybe less impacted, to where somebody like me, if they came in and it was all razzle dazzle, I'd be like, okay, like, I'm going to calm way lower down, because it's also, that's probably what I'm wanting for the situation. So there's that too, of just being able to read a room and know what the energy is, and try to, I don't know, be aware of what other people are feeling and going through.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, think about when we first started dating. I was a weird transition, but like, I'm way more chill now.
Yeah.
Like, me coming into your family's zone, it was like, who is this?
I think you felt that more than other people did, but
I mean,
I think it's so different.
Knowing you guys more now, I'm like, that is so like how I was. Like, it's like what I make fun of now with people. Like, oh my gosh, like, you're too animated. Like, you got too much going on.
Yes.
Like, you gotta mellow out a little bit.
Yeah, well, and it's just part of like reading a room.
Right,
What's
yeah.
the energy in the room,
Yeah.
and like kind of trying to match that energy and be a part of that. I think it just
To where if I took the more mellowed approach, like how we are in those situations now, or like those groups of people, if I took that to a work environment, it doesn't work as much. Because like I'm not as demanding of a presence.
oh sure, yeah,
So it's like people are going to walk all over me or not treat me as,
totally
the same. That's like that personality doesn't work in some work environments.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not going to be seen as a leader.
You think of a salesperson, like if they're super reserved and mellow and chill and whatever, that maybe would work or help for some people. But I think there's a certain amount of assertiveness and a little bit higher energy to have that person get engaged and want to like buy whatever service it is or buy whatever product it is. To where if you're just like, if you're me, that's why I'd be a terrible salesperson, because I'm so boring and mellow and low energy. That's like, I'm not inspiring this person to want to do any of it.
Right. Because we can't be like threatening enough. Salespeople are very threatening. Like, I think that's a part of it that works, is because you're going to get the people that are too scared to say no to you.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that. There's some of that for sure. Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is interesting. Like, it shows, especially doing a podcast and having to edit it and watch it, you notice yourself speaking and how you talk and whatever, and you can notice like, oh, he's really engaged in this part and likes this part of the conversation, and then other parts you're like, he's bored, he's not into it, whatever. So I think I don't know, it's something that I put more weight to now than I did before, of just how you communicate and what your presence is in the room. And I was always good at reading a room and just kind of fitting myself in there, but I wasn't good at molding myself to the room.
You just knew like what was going to be annoying or incorrect.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, like I'm way better in my natural calmer energy mood, which is probably why I'm the way that I am, because my family's also that way. But I get into a room where it's like high energy, razzle dazzle, all that. I have a hard time matching that. I just can't do that.
Yeah. Well, when we're kind of opposite in that way, but I'm still learning how to be like that stern and direct, mixing that in with the high energy, because I think the same way that your natural default, like, you're very calming to be around, but as far as trying to get people to buy into you or to engage with you or to listen and take you seriously, those are not the traits that are going to do that. To where in certain roles, you, like, at least with now, especially with teaching, like you're put in roles where you are the leader just by the nature of the job, that it's hard to take that seriously when everything is just so like too calm. But then on the exact opposite for me, if I don't have that stern, bring it down and be very clear and efficient with my words, that's more what it is. It's not even direct. It's, I need to be more efficient. That is the same thing. Like, people read that as you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Because you're blabbing.
Yeah. And that's also a trick too. If you're just a good talker, you can convince people of anything. You might not even know what the heck you're talking about, but you're clear and you know the different things you're supposed to do communication wise. It's like, that's also why there's really great salesmen. They've just figured out that skill. They might not even know, they might not even believe in the product or the service that they're doing, but they're good at communicating it, so they get you to sign on the dotted line.
Yeah. Something I want to work on.
Speaking of bored and not engaging, this conversation has
Reached that point.
run its course.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. F1. Oh my gosh.
Moving on to
we're going to talk about our programs, like what we're running and kind of what we're doing, and little insights with that, I think it'd be helpful to kind of talk through what we're trying to do, our intentions with it, questions, answers, all that kind of stuff with that you could be thinking about as you're doing your own program and going through your own journey with that. Of some of these things might come up, or things that you didn't think about that hopefully we can talk about and give you some insight on.
So my program is very glute focused. I wanted to build my lower half in this program. Do you want me to like say the workout and then you can talk about what your method to your madness was?
I think the reverse. I think method to the madness first.
Okay.
I think whenever you have an intention like that of I want to build the lower half of the body, the first thing you probably should do is I want to send that stimulus as many times throughout the week, or as many times as I can, without overtraining it. So like for you with it, you're doing glute focus. So like every single leg workout will have 1 or 2 glute targeting exercises. And then we're kind of doing like 6 days a week. I mean, it's not even really that as much as it's 6 different workouts. But we've been able to go 6 days a week. But even if it's something that you're only going twice a week, whatever it is that you're wanting to focus on, that should be the bulk of what you're doing, because that's the intention and that's the goal. So like for you, you've got 3 different leg exercises or leg workouts in that 6 days, and 1 to 2 exercises is glute focused. So people that want to build their chest, build their shoulders, whatever the thing might be, that should be the main stimulus that you're sending. It shouldn't be, well, I want to build my shoulders, so I'm going to write a program, but then I'm going to keep it like very even throughout my whole program of shoulders is the same amount of volume as chest, is the same amount of volume as legs, and so on and so forth. You're going to want to do shoulders more than you're doing the other stuff. So I think sometimes that just alone gets mixed up, because we want to keep a good balance with the body, but we get too in our head about that of, well, I need to have the same amount of volume for each body part. So that would be the first thing that I would say with putting a program together. If it is even, make everything even, and then you're all good. But if there is a focus that you're wanting to attack and get more out of, it should be taking up a lot of your workouts.
Well, and that even the balance conversation too. If you're new to this, you won't be able to do this yet. You need time to gain the understanding of how your body works. But my upper body responds much quicker than my lower half. So I can already put less volume on my upper body and it'll still probably match what's going to happen on the lower half.
Yeah.
too.
And that's something that I was actually texting my brother Corey about the other day. He was like, man, if I don't remember what he said, if only this could grow like my arms do. And it's like, I'm the same way, you know, we mostly same genetics and everything. So it makes sense. But like, I don't have to do a lot to make my biceps and triceps grow, but I have to do so much in order to get my legs to grow. So like how I would put that program then is, well, my arms are going to be fine if I just do like 1 or 2 exercises. Maybe I think I'm doing right now like 4. I'm doing 2 bicep exercises and 2 tricep exercises per week, per 6-day period. So not a ton of volume, but then like
That will still grow more than anything else.
yeah, it'll still like they already feel like they're just blowing up from that. But then with like what I'm trying to target, for me, I'm trying to grow my quads. I'm doing probably 2, 4, maybe 6 to 8 exercises for my quads every week. So if that's the intention, that's what you should be going after. And like you said, understanding your body of this responds really well, this doesn't respond. Even if you're trying to keep a balanced approach, you might have to take that into consideration too, of like, okay, my chest never grows. I need to have a little bit more chest than I do maybe back. Maybe my back responds really well. Or I need to have a little bit more chest than I do my arms. But I think that's a good point to bring up.
So I'm going to go through as in days it's just a 6-day a week program. It doesn't necessarily need to be you do these on a specific day. And I think going back to what you're saying, even if you're not running a 6-day week, 6 days a week, because I know that's a lot, it's just your ratio. Your ratio needs to be more glute focused compared to the rest of your workout. But
Yeah.
my Monday starts with barbell hip thrust. And all of these, I'm doing 15 rep range. It doesn't necessarily matter what rep range you're in. I have just been doing an 8 to 10 rep range. So I'm trying to switch up the stimulus into something different. I struggle with the higher rep range, but it's good for me when I'm trying to practice lifts again, because I can go a little bit lighter weight. I get more repetitions underneath the load where I can kind of like tweak as I go, to where the other option to me was going a very low rep range and super heavy, to where when I learned, that's just harder for me because I'm like, well, I did 5. Did I figure it out or not? The 15 kind of allows me to play with it more.
And I think that's another good point, though, because that's another area where you, as you work out more and continue to experience it more, you can understand what rep range works better for you as far as what goal you're wanting. For me, I'm trying to do more of a bodybuilder-esque type thing. I want to look more muscular. I don't care about how much weight I'm pushing. I don't care about strength. So I'm sitting in the 15 rep range as well. And for me, I've also noticed that doing 15 repetitions, my body tends to respond the best to that as far as doing like a bodybuilder thing, getting more muscular. If I were to just do 10 repetitions, I don't think what I'm going for, that rep range responds as good. Now, you're going to grow muscle from, I think the studies say like 3 to 30 repetitions, but finding where you tend to respond best and then that being in line with your goal. If I was trying to get so much stronger, I wouldn't really be sitting in a 15 rep range. I've noticed for me, if I want to get stronger, somewhere between 5 and 8, that works better and I can continue that progress throughout. If I want to look more muscular, sitting up in the high rep range, for me, high rep range of 15 reps is where that happens best. It can be individual to you, though. I mean,
Wouldn't you say it's kind of old school knowledge? That's like, if you want to have this, it's this rep range. If you want to have this, it's this rep range. That it's more individualized to the person, and also the switching up the adaptation of the stimulus that you have been going with.
Yeah, I think that's more true now. I mean,
and even what you're naturally good at. Like, I do not do well in the higher rep range because of my muscle endurance, which is a different type of challenge for me. So if I can gain that new skill, when I go back to the 5x5s or the 8 to 10s, I'm going to have a new stimulus that I can practice in, or a new even speed that I can practice in, because I have gained that skill with going in the higher rep range.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So a lot of it is about what your goal is and then formulating everything to go in that direction. It's like if you were to take an athlete, you're not going to have him do a bodybuilding program. That's not going to, what's the word? That's not going to like transition or help that person well to become a better athlete if you're doing lateral raises. Like even the exercise you pick and the rep range you pick, it's not going to make sense.
When is an athlete ever doing this?
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know
Maybe
when.
tennis if they're going to the side.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's like the way that you should be training is in the direction that you're wanting to go. So if you're trying to have a more aesthetic look, a bodybuilding-esque program is going to be better. If you're trying to be a power lifter, yeah, you're going to be lifting lots of heavy weights, lots of lower rep range, working on strength, all that kind of stuff. And then the way you're doing the exercises is much different too. Like if I'm a strength athlete and I'm trying to be a power lifter, you're not going to like try to be time under tension, really pump the muscle, feel the muscle out. Like you're trying to get that bar up 5 times and then rack it. To our bodybuilder, I'm trying to have a little bit more time under tension, more of a stretch, more pumping the muscle, which also tends to benefit well of doing higher rep range because you can just go longer in that set. But you need to formulate what you're doing around what your goal is.
got it. So formulate around the goal. What do you want? As well as your body needs something to adapt to.
Think about this. Think about an athlete that's going into the gym and doing a whole bunch of isometric stuff.
What's an isometric? Like, what is
Where
that?
you just kind of like a wall sit, where you sit up against the wall and you're just holding that position the whole time. Or another example, you go into like a chest press hold or a push-up hold. You get into the push-up position, you go low enough to where you feel the tension and you're holding there. Anything where you're just holding that position and it's a struggle for you to stay in that position. When is an athlete ever in that position? So why would you be training in that position when you're a wide receiver or you're doing anything athletically? You're a basketball player. When is a basketball player ever standing still, holding a position and just like tensing their muscles? Never. So why would you train those exercises to do that? They should be doing tons of movement, tons of like athletic movements, a lateral lunge or like stepping, all that kind of stuff. Cable twists, like they're using weight and movement. That's where kettlebells are great for athletes. But like that goal doesn't match up with the intention and the things that you're doing. To where that's a whole big category of stuff and stuff that you'd have to learn, too. But thinking about that too, like, does this go in line with my goal? My goal is to grow my quads, but my whole program is based around chest somehow. Well, I need to switch up what exercise I'm doing and how I'm formulating this to make it so that I can get my quads to grow.
So there was something I was going to bring up earlier. I forgot. But it was something around that. Maybe I'll think of it. Okay, so my Monday is barbell hip thrust, Smith machine hip thrust, leg curl, windmills. Again, I'm doing 4 sets of 15 reps. My Tuesday, upper body, lat pull down, dumbbell lateral raise, incline dumbbell curl, dumbbell skull crushers. Wednesdays were...
So notice that your leg day or your first day...
glute and hamstrings
is
focused.
Is mostly glutes with a little bit of hamstring, one exercise of hamstring. Your second day is your entire upper body. So your goal and your focus is legs. So we have that, glute development. So it's mostly glutes, but a touch of hamstring in there. The second day is your whole upper body. So if your goal is to grow your glutes, you wouldn't do that and then do a chest day and a back day and a arms day and a shoulders day. You want to be able to hit your legs as much as possible. So your upper body's kind of on the back burner. So we're just doing enough for you to get some sort of stimulus for your upper body, but it's not a ton of volume and it's secondary to what you're trying to do. To where then your third day, we're back to glutes.
Glutes and quads. Smith machine hip thrust, single leg hip thrust. So Smith machine, single leg hip thrust, Bulgarian lunge, leg extension, weighted crunches.
So then same thing with that. It's like we're back to glutes. We're doing a couple different exercises than we did on the first day so that there's a little bit of variation. That way we can hit a couple different things. But still, the first 2 exercises being mostly glute focus. Even the Bulgarian lunge, the way that you're doing them is more targeting the glute than it is the quad. And then Smith machine, hip thrust, single leg, glute thing. But then just a touch of leg extension to keep some sort of quad development or just like maintenance in that too.
Because I think those are also the complementary muscle groups that one are going to allow me to build strength within my glute focused exercises because I have the complementary ones also getting stronger. But then when you, again, like the balance, my glutes could be developing, but if my hamstrings aren't getting developed, I'm not going to have, like, say, that tuck.
Sure.
To where it's not going to make my glutes look as good, or I'm not going to have a well-rounded look that having those complementary ones, it just complements what you're trying to build. Upper body on Thursday, incline chest press, cable lateral raise, bar tricep push down, bar cable curl.
So yeah, there you go. I mean, a chest
Full
exercise, a shoulder, a bicep, and a tricep.
And I noticed, well, okay, I'll go to the next one and then I'll what I see a theme with throughout the whole thing. Friday, glutes and hamstrings, barbell hip thrust, good mornings, leg curl, leg lifts. Saturday, back to the upper body, straight bar pull down, dumbbell shoulder press, dumbbell curl, cable kickback. Two themes that I'm seeing, always starting with the bulkier exercise to start off with. I'm guessing it's just because that's what we're focusing on, and I'm going to put the most energy into those bigger movements to where then we start to get into the isolated complementary movements.
Where you're having less and less energy.
And where the upper body days, you're starting me with the bigger muscle groups, the chest or the back. You're not having me start with the shoulder press or the lateral raise or the cable curls and all other stuff.
Something, a chest press or a lat pull down, more moving parts. Your back is involved and your biceps for lat pull down. Chest press, your chest is involved, your shoulders involved, your triceps are involved. So the bigger movements starting at the beginning. And then, yes, as you go down the list, it becomes more and more isolated, because as you lose energy for that stuff, you don't want to now have something that requires a ton of energy, like a chest press or a lat pull down, and you're not able to maybe push as much, do as much, all that sort of thing. Or like even you go to do lat pull down, you've already done biceps before that, and your biceps are fried. And also there's a ton of signal being sent to them. Now you go to do lat pull down, might be harder to
turn that off
and feel your back versus which, with that being what you want, then there you go. For me, like on my chest day, I'm starting with cable fly rather than starting with chest press, because I want to pump my chest and isolate my chest right away. And then when I go to chest press, it's already got a ton of stimulus sent to it. It's already a little bit fried. So now when I go to it, I'm able to just feel that even more intensely on the next exercise. To where if that's not what you want, then you wouldn't go do that.
So would you say, because with doing this program for me, why did you put hip thrusts as the main movement?
Because your goal or your intention is to build your glutes, and that is probably the best, if not arguably the best, for glute development.
Compared to squats or deadlifts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like them.
And it's the most intense of the glute exercises.
I like them for that because of it's a big movement, but you have less to focus on than a squat or a deadlift. That I'm getting less fatigued overall than I would with those other ones. And I can push the weight more because of the range of motion is much smaller than both of those as well, which I love.
Yeah, there's less moving parts and less other body parts that are super involved. Like a hip thrust is really just glutes. There's some hamstring going on too, and watching a video on it too. It depends on your setup too, where you can be feeling it a little bit more. But for the most part, it is mostly glute. That if we were to do squats right away, you're just getting so much quad activation as well, that then if you go to do your hip thrust after that, you might feel a little too much in your quads, that stimulus is sent there, all that kind of stuff. And with whatever energy output you did with the squats, you have less now to do it with the hip thrusts, which glutes being the focus, well, we just took away energy for the glutes then. Towards something that you could do, like somewhat of a method that I'm doing is kind of waking up that area, like me doing the cable flies and then going to chest press. Something that you could do is like kickbacks or something not as intense, but still extremely glute focused. So I wouldn't go do Bulgarian lunge and then go to hip thrust. That's too intense. But you could do something like hip thrust or like the stuff with the bands, the glute stuff with the bands, and then go to your hip thrust, because your glutes may be fired up and ready to go and have more of a stimulus than when you go to do your hip thrust. So it's something that you're
priming the muscle, basically.
Yeah, kind of getting it ready and getting it wakened up. A lot of people struggle feeling their back, and that's something that you could do with your back workouts or exercises as well. It's like, what's one exercise that you really feel your back engaged? Do that's really isolating, and then maybe go to that bigger move. People have such a hard time with lat pull downs, of feeling it in their lats. And something that I've noticed for myself is a straight arm pull down. I feel my lats a lot more. So you could start with that. Super isolating to the lats, not a extremely like energy expenditure exercise, and then go to lat pull down, and that might make you feel your lats a little bit more. Or like assisted pull-ups. Doing assisted pull-ups, that I really feel in my lats, and then go to a lat pull down, and hopefully you can feel it even more then too.
Can you talk about trigger sessions, how I'm using those on my upper body days?
Yeah, so like you're just doing like the band glute kind of complex, the different exercises that you see kind of everywhere, throwing those in on your upper body days as well, just to have a very small light stimulus sending to your glutes to make sure that they're continuing to try to grow, develop, adapt, all that kind of stuff. And that's just your focus. So then if it was like, I want my arms to be bigger, I'm have my designated like arm days and that kind of stuff. But on the other days, I might do stuff very low intensity with bands of, let me just pump out, 3 sets of 15, 4 sets of 15 bicep curls, band like tricep extension or whatever on your days off. That way you can just continue to send that signal and that stimulus. You have to be careful with that though, because if you're doing too much volume and you get to like this overtraining part of it, they're not going to want to develop and grow. And
a key point in that is you're not pushing the weight like you would on your workout days. Like that's like where bands are great, because they're very low intensity, low resistance. They're easy to travel with. So how I've been doing it is in between, like during my rest periods on my upper body days, I've been just every other throwing in some kickbacks, some side raises, and choosing a medium to light band to do so. So I'm not triggering the same fatigue that I am doing on my lower body days, but I'm just basically saying hello to my glutes every day, just to make sure that, like you said, sending the signal, but to keep those muscles engaged, especially for bigger muscle groups like that, where you can hit them pretty frequently and I'm not overexerting the muscle. I could see that where it starts to become overtraining on those smaller muscle groups where you can hammer them much easier.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, avoiding fatigue in those areas. That's the key point with those trigger sessions, or doing a little bit extra on the days that are not designated to your goal, is keeping that fatigue to zero. Basically, you're just pumping it out.
So what would be so I'm starting the program right now. We're only in the start of the third week. What should my focus be as far as, like, am I trying to build strength? Am I trying to put more weight on as far as like what I'm lifting? Am I trying to prioritize the skill of the workouts? Like, what should be some of my intentions going into every workout?
With keeping like a little bit stricter of a rep range, like if you're just staying at 15 repetitions, the idea probably then is to add a little bit of weight each day that you come back to it. Like your first day, you do that the first week. Now the second week, you're back to that first day, trying to put a little bit more weight on than you did last week, and just doing that pretty much every week. You're going to get to a point probably where the growth is slowing down and you're not able to respond as great. So you might get to a point where, I can only do this much weight on hip thrust or whatever, but trying to put on a little bit more weight. And then as you get further in, you can maybe start to be a little less strict on the rep range too, to where, okay, I'm at a point where I can do 135 for hip thrust 15 times, but if I go to 145 or 140 even, I can't get 15 repetitions, but I can get 12 or 13. I would start to do that as you get further down the road. as you get, once you get to a point where I can't just put 5-10 pounds on every time and increase it. But I think you're doing 4 sets. So also taking into consideration, it doesn't have to be all 4 sets that you increase the weight. If you did 135 last week for 4 sets, and now this week you do 135 for the first 2, but then you can do 145 for the second 2 sets. Okay, we added weight. We sent a little bit, or we challenge ourselves a little bit more, so you can continue to do that and continue to add the weight to that. But I think this is where people get too comfortable. And even today for me, I noticed my chest fly, I'd stayed at pretty much the same weight the last workout and half of the workout the last time. So I was like, okay, I need to, even though this is challenging and it doesn't maybe feel like I can do a little bit more, I need to bump it up 5 pounds because I need to send the signal to my body. We got to do this. We got to respond. We got to send a stimulus that we need to grow. Otherwise, we're going to just stall out.
So let's say that, what did I do today? Let's say with my lateral raise. Last week, I did the 12 and a, oh, I did 12. It's 12 and a half. Let's say I did 10 pounds. So then this week for my first set, I grabbed the 12 and a halves. If I feel like that is already an increase from last week, because this is also how I'm not really good at increasing every set. I usually like to okay, what is my bumping up? And then I'll stick with that all 4 sets. Is that okay?
Yeah.
If I still feel like it's challenging every time, and honestly, it gets more challenging because I'm getting tired.
Yes, exactly. And
but is that okay? Like if I start heavy and keep?
Yeah. And most of the time you'd probably go in that direction anyways, where last week you did 10 pounds for lateral raise. This week I'm going to grab the 12 and a half, and I can do maybe 1 set, 2 sets at that, but then I have to go back to 10. That's still okay because you've pushed the weight and you've challenged yourself to where now, like you've upped the weight. You're sending a stimulus that we need to get stronger in order to handle these weights. So then hopefully next week, say you only did 12 and a half for 2 sets and you did 10 for the other 2 sets. Hopefully next week you can go 12 and a half, all 4 sets.
Okay. And that's how I've been tracking it in my notes is I've been doing, okay, so this is my another question, but this is how I've been tracking it. If, again, let's say that I'm doing a lateral raise and I'm doing 15. Say that I can, say that I can get 10 next week with 15 pounds, but then the last 5, I pick up the 12 and a half. Is that what I should do? Or should I drop the weight and do a continual 15, even if that whole 15 is a little bit easier than what it could have been?
I would say if you grab the 15-pound dumbbells and you can only get 10, and then you go to 12 and a half to finish out the rest of the 5, I would then go to 12 and a half for the next set.
Okay.
So I would only really do that where you're switching weights within the set. If you kind of made a mistake, grabbed too much, and
so it shouldn't be intentional.
It shouldn't be intentional. I think there's times for it, and it's okay if you're in a place where 15 pounds is way too much, but 12 and a half, I can do 15 times for 4 sets. So it's like you kind of get stuck in this area of, well, if I do push myself to 15, I can't get them all. But if I stay at 12 and a half, I know I can get it every single time. Mm-hmm. That's also an area where I think that is okay, where you split it up within the set. You do 10 with 15s and then 12 and a half for the rest of them. But I would say sticking to one weight, doing it continuously for the 15 repetitions, doing that as much as you can. That should be what you're doing 95% of the time.
Got it. Okay. So that's an only every once in a while type of thing, and the goal is to progress out of that as quickly as you can, where then I'm only grabbing the 15s. And even if then maybe I'm only doing 12 good reps, that may be better than sticking lower and doing the full thing.
Yeah. There's also techniques where it's like you can grab the 12 and a half and just make them heavier for yourself. Slow down the eccentric part of the lift, keep your concentric part of the lift the same. As you're lifting them up, keep that the same. But as you lower them down, maybe slowing that down a little bit more, because that can help you continue to build muscle and grow so that when you go to the 15s, you can actually do 15.
Because of the time under tension.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then hopefully the next week it's like you can grab the 15s and do a set of 15 of them, but then you have to go back to the 12 and a half and do 15 for the next 3 sets. You still are increasing the weight as far as your whole workout is concerned because you did that one set of it.
So this is maybe kind of a similar question, but I'm noticing this on my shoulder press. If I get to those last 3 and I'm wanting to bounce it up a little bit, but I'm still able to do it, is that, I guess my overall question is, this is something I've always struggled with, is when do I know when to go up in weight and when to stay where I'm at? Like, what is more beneficial? Now, I know from a mindset aspect of it, I don't like to push the weight. So my usual is to be scared of pushing it. I'll just go back to like, well, I want to practice the technique and just like make sure that that's really good, to where I've been trying to just go, no, just make it heavier and see what happens. But as far as my goal or just in general for advice, what are your cues to know when to stay at that weight or when to move it up?
I think if I'm having to bounce the weight up for the last, say, 2-3 repetitions, that I think is okay. And like you said earlier, a lot of the times too, you start off with a weight, you might have to end up going down because of that fatigue. So if you were to do that and you bounce the weight for the last 2 or 3 repetitions, after doing that, I would maybe go down a weight. And if that was too easy, I would then go back up and maybe do that same thing, 2 or 3 repetitions where you're bouncing it slightly. But I would not make it a habit of doing that bouncing a lot.
Okay.
Like, again, 95% of your sets should be smooth, clean, controlled, hitting your rep range that you need to, good form each time. It's still challenging, but you're able to do it. To where, yeah. And again, if you're not super strict on the rep ranges, it's not such a big deal. But I think what's good about being a little bit more strict on the rep ranges is you get a better idea of if I'm progressing or not. If I always go and grab the 15-pound dumbbells and do 12, and then I go to the 12 and a halves and I do 15, I do another set of those at 15, and then I grab the 10s. And
it's like, are those all equaling the same then?
Right. And you're always doing that every single workout. You kind of don't have an idea of whether you're getting stronger or not. And you're a little bit just sitting in your own comfort zone and not pushing the weights enough. There should be moments in your exercises or in your workouts where certain sets of certain exercises, it's like, wow, I almost couldn't get 15, or the last 2 repetitions I had to kind of use a little bit more of my body to get it up. That's good to be in that position and pushing yourself, but you don't want to make such a habit of it where you're doing that all the time. It should be like, I just need a little help on these extra 2, and then hopefully next week I don't need help on the extra 2. I can sit there strict and do them great. And that's because you did push the weight, but then you're also keeping your form good. You're keeping the just like the way you're doing it in the right spot. If you're always bouncing the weights, you're not getting as much of a stimulus where you want it to go, to where it's maybe not going to end up growing as much.
Where do you see the cycling of this program for me?
I mean, it a lot of it depends on where you feel like you're getting to with it. You know, if there's still continuous progression and things are moving in a direction that you want to, I don't really see a reason to stop doing it. But if things start to plateau or things start to maybe get aches and pains, then you can start to maneuver and switch it around a little bit. But
if I'm continuing to get stronger, going up in weight, we just keep riding with it.
And it's getting more like your aesthetic goals are going and working a little bit more, or it's continuing to show you that this is going in a good direction aesthetically, I don't see why would you change it if things are still working. But kind of like what we also talked about too, we're not very good as individuals to see the reality because we see ourselves so much, like every day in the mirror, especially working out. You see yourself in the mirror every day working out, that I think things like pictures and measurements give you a really great idea of where you started at versus where you got to now, to where then you can go back to those actual true data points to see, okay, my strength has gone up. I'm getting stronger in this area. Aesthetically, like I measured around my hips and my butt. It went from this number to now this number. So it did grow. Okay, great. Now, why not do it a few more weeks or a few more months and do the measurements again and see, okay, there's still continuous growth happening. I might as well keep going, keep doing this. If you see that nothing's changed or you've plateaued and it's been a long enough time, you can't do 3 weeks and be like, nothing's happening. You have to let this ride out a little bit, because there's also a lot of other things going on with your body. It's not just, well, I'm doing glute focus, so like all my glutes should grow and everything else should just stay the same. The body just doesn't tend to work that way. So you need to give it a good amount of time. You need to let these things play out, and having those measurements, whether it's literally measuring, each part of your body part, like a calf, the lower leg, the upper leg, around the hips and the butt area, the waist, the chest and the back, the bicep. If you have those, you have like your weight, your body fat percentage, your muscle mass.
And if you Google that, like you can just Google what to measure and get one of these like little, or they call it caliper. No, this caliper is a squeegee for the fat.
It's just like a tape measure.
Or just get a regular tape measure.
Yeah.
But that's like really Googleable.
Yeah. If there's continuous progression, why change it? If you plateau after a significant amount of time and things aren't growing or changing anymore, then you can switch things up. And it could just be switching the exercises, could be switching the rep range, could be switching the order of your exercises.
So okay, so I have two questions with that. I think you kind of just answered it, but one part of the first question is, how long should I be waiting before we do that check-in to see if it's working? And if we're noticing at that time mark that you're going to say, if other things are not happening, or if like, okay, maybe my overall body fat is going down, but either way, regardless, my glutes, nothing is changing. What would be the game plan? I think you kind of just said it, like changing rep range, changing.
Yeah.
Is it just changing the stimulus?
Yeah. Changing the rep range. Maybe you're at 15, go down to 10, see if something more is happening. And even just still, you're going down to 10 in order for you to get to like, I'm pushing myself, or I'm, 2 reps to failure kind of thing. I'm going to have to put more weight on. I've been doing 15 reps at this weight. I can't keep the same weight and go to 10. Obviously I'm stronger than that. So going to 10 rep range, going to 5, switching up the rep range. That way it forces you to switch up how much weight you're pushing and doing. That's going to help change the stimulus a little bit. Sometimes even rest periods that can help too. Like sometimes we sit there and take way too long rest periods, and we're letting it kind of go. Well, either or. You're too long of rest periods to where I can always do this weight for this many repetitions, where if I just cut that rep range down, I'm having to go back into the exercise a lot quicker, to where I probably can't keep that same weight and do 15 repetitions again. So changing rep ranges, the opposite can be true. If you're doing way too short of rest periods, that's where you see people doing like, yeah, I can do the 30s for 15, but then my second set, I can only do 15 pounds. And it's like, well, your rep range is probably way too short then, because you should be sticking around the same amount of weight, like 5, maybe 10 pounds for the exercise. Another thing is just the exercises themselves. Sometimes whatever exercise it is just not effective for you, or maybe you're not doing them that great. So changing the exercise to something that's more effective for you could be helpful as well. But those three things, the order of your exercises too, like we talked about, of maybe you need to prime that muscle a little bit more. Maybe you need to do the glute band stuff and then go to your hip thrust. Or if you're doing that, maybe you're getting a little bit too fatigued even from that band stuff to where now when you go to hip thrust, you can't push as much weight. So switching that. Now I start with those hip thrusts, get as much weight out of that as I can, and then keep those banded stuff towards the end where it's just kind of like a extra pump out at the end type of thing.
So it's a lot of trial and error. I feel like the things that you normally check with me if something isn't changing is food, which I want to get to in a second. Food, and if I'm pushing it, like doing that check-in of.
Yeah, people don't.
You
push
say
it.
You're pushing it, but like, are you?
Yeah.
And that's where tracking every workout keeps me accountable to that, because I'm like, well, that's the number I wrote last week, so I have to do that or higher. So that helps. How long would I do it before we do that check-in? Like, how long do you think is an adequate amount of time? If I'm increasing my weights and I'm checking, I'm staying up to date with that with you, and I'm increasing my weight, when would we do that check-in, you think?
It's so arbitrary because you're going to have people say 3 weeks and you should see changes. And you're going to have some people that say, don't expect a lot for 10 years. You know, it's so arbitrary, but I think something that general and that I like is like every 3 months, because I think that's a long enough time to be running the same thing and really exhausting every last bit out of that program or out of what you're doing to see what changes have happened. So I like every 3 months, but that's kind of just a personal opinion and it's a very arbitrary number. But I like being able to give something to, I hate when people are like, I don't know. It's just like whenever you feel, or they just make it very vague to where there's no number to go off of. So again, it's very arbitrary, but I would say every 3 months.
Okay. What should I be, and this can be my last question, what should my protocol with food be?
Yeah, this is a tricky one because, again, there's so much individual variance with it. Your goals don't seem to be like putting on weight or losing weight. So I would tend to stay wherever you're at with your food as long as protein is high enough, because you're trying to build muscle. So we need protein in order to do that. So your protein needs to be high enough, 0.7 per pound of body weight to 1.2 or whatever, something in that range. At least 0.7, it seems to be what we're seeing. So 0.7 per pound of body weight protein wise. If you were trying to like go for strength gains or like really build your body out and put on weight and stuff, you'd need to be a little bit more dialed in of increasing calories and staying on top of that so that you're actually putting on weight. And then the same in the reverse. If you're trying to lose weight, you're going to have to reduce calories and be on top of your reduction in that every week, every day, every week, making sure you're staying consistent and then looking for the signs of, okay, my energy is plummeting and I can't lift what I was able to lift last week. So I'm depleted. My workouts are either way too hard and too intense, or I'm not feeling the body properly. So you have to manage that as well.
Okay.
And that's something too with these workouts and these programs. If you start to see yourself getting weaker, you're probably overtraining or you're probably not fueling. So taking those two things into consideration.
And I would say letting the beginner phase of this phase out and then start being aware of those signs. Because like for me, we're again starting, this was day 1 of the 3rd week. The first 2 weeks, I noticed like I was tired. Like I am going to sleep and I am falling asleep and I'm dead tired. That my metabolism started to pick up a little bit, but in weird times. I noticed my hydration, like that was a little bit off. That I'm also sending a much larger stimulus than we have been lately.
Yeah.
That I'm also giving my body time to regulate a little bit.
Yes, and I think that's a big point and a key point is if you're starting a program, you're starting something new, you have to give it time to play out a little bit. It can't be 2 weeks and it's like, I'm just exhausted. I need to like reduce my workouts because of that. It's like, go longer and see how your body responds to that. Maybe it's just, it's working its way through this and trying to figure out how to have energy throughout the day and not crash and all that kind of stuff. If you're doing it for 3 months and it's still that way, then yeah, you're probably too exhausted to workout overload. But for one, we want to see positive changes immediately, and we also don't want to see negative changes immediately. So
You're saying that's what people think.
That's what
not
people think.
like that's what we want to be thinking.
that's what people think is I better see my butt growing immediately and I better not lose any energy or I better not sleep worse or whatever, any negative things. Well, you're sending such a new stimulus and new change that things are going to be different and changing and you need to let them work out. You can't just, I'm tired, so I need to back off. Well, no, like you need to keep going and keep pushing through and hopefully gain a new threshold of what you're able to handle and what you're able to do. You take somebody that's on the couch and you get them to go do a 10-minute walk, they're probably going to be exhausted that day. And the next day they might wake up and feel like they have less energy. You wouldn't tell them, well, just back off and chill out and go back sitting on the couch. It's like, no, you need to build yourself to have new and higher thresholds. There's a reason why people can run these ultra marathons, 200 miles nonstop type of thing. It's because they've built themselves up to be able to do that through pushing. They're able to sleep fine. 8 hours a night, great sleep, all that kind of stuff. You're building new thresholds as you're doing this. So if you get to these obstacles and these barriers of low energy, my sleep's not as good, all that kind of stuff, give it some time, let your body adapt to that, and hopefully then it will change to be able to give you that sleep, give you that energy, get rid of the negative stuff after a longer period of time of doing this stuff.
Well, and to know yourself too, like, okay, if this is a full approach, am I maybe adjusting too many things at a time, or am I not going into it with the best approach? Like, I'm sending a way crazier stimulus just with my workouts. Like, I mean, we were working out mostly at home every other day, or no, kind of every day, but like wasn't that extreme. To now I'm doing a 6-day-a-week program.
Yeah.
That's going to be a crazy stimulus. So,
and the exercises you're doing is different. You know, the rep range, everything's different.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm noticing like I'm getting tired a lot more. Okay. Maybe I need to prioritize rest a little bit extra, or we're also going to a gym that has a sauna. Maybe I can't sauna every day that I go to the gym because that's also depleting me in a way. And like, I'm not used to that stimulus. So maybe I can't do 6-day-a-week workout and 6-day-a-week sauna. Maybe I got to chill on the sauna because I'm wanting to prioritize the workout right now, and then kind of be on top of it with my resting and also my eating so that I'm feeling it. Like, I have to be kind of what has to give in certain areas. What was I going to say? Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, give yourself time and allow yourself to reach these new thresholds of activity and pushing yourself and all that kind of stuff. Your body most likely will adapt to that and be able to handle that in all of the other areas. You just have to give it time and continue to stay disciplined and keep going.
I feel like it's the third week and I'm still like just now kind of figuring out what I'm doing with this. Like, it took me the first 2 weeks just to, how do I like to do this? What platform do I like to use for my feet? What weight feels comfortable to where I'm pushing it, but I'm not like being stupid with it and not, like that took me I feel like I'm generally an experienced lifter, but like it still took me that long to just get the lay of the land and figure out how I want to go about this, that now going into week 3, when most people will be like, I'm done with the program,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, now I can actually start.
Yeah. I think having little to no expectations is a really great way to go about it, and being in the mindset of it's always experimental. Like I'm always experimenting and I'm always seeing what's going on and trying new things and doing that kind of stuff. I think that's a good mindset and good game plan to go into anytime you're going into exercise.
And with any experiment, you have to be consistent and observe the data.
Yeah, and that's where taking down the data is a huge key point and why we harp on it, because what experiment do you run that you don't like keep the data or write it down? Like you got to be mindful.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, like and subscribe.